So Yuri also throws a nice bit of eugenics into the mix. So he goes on to say, all you have to do to screw up the status quo of free nation is to borrow one false idea from the ideology of a communist or totalitarian government. For the sake of simplicity, I've chosen the idea of egalitarianism. People born equal therefore must be equal. Yeah, that sounds nice. That's a pretty good concept right there. Sounds great, yep, it does, but look at yourselves. Were you born equal? Some of you weighed 7 pounds at birth, others 6 or 5. Are you now equal? So Yuri, if we take this to another extent, do you think disabled people are equal? According to you, if you weigh more or less, that affects how equal you are to other humans. So if you're disabled...
Isn't that the argument he's making?
So, well,
he doesn't understand
this
the
guy's
argument.
being either intentionally obtuse or he's just dumb. I don't know what it is. So Yuri talks about how part of the problem with the Marxist ideology is that true equality is impossible because people obviously aren't born the same. There's always going to be some inequality baked into the system.
Some people have free will. Some people don't. Sorry.
Right. No, but and he uses these examples. And there's a famous short story. I'm trying to remember what it's called that I actually read in middle school. I think
the one where they like limp, they cut off people's limbs because they're too fast and stuff.
Right. Yeah. If you're, they try to make everyone equal. So like if you're too fast, you have to wear weights. If you're too smart, you have to wear like an earbud that puts like a piercing scream in your ear every like 60 seconds to like distract you. Like everyone has to be like equal. And when you have that situation, it means everyone has to be like dumbed down and pushed down to some like shitty norm, because it's easier to make people weaker than to make them better, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that's all he was talking about. He's talking about that this sort of fantastical idea of everyone can be the same is not a true idea.
Yeah.
But yet this guy's like turned it around to like always making some sort of eugenics argument, which is obviously not what he's making.
Yeah. If that word was equity, it would be better.
You okay there, buddy?
No.
Okay? You okay? You good? Adam, are you alive?
Disabled? Are you people? Again, you see where this can lead. So in any way, physically, mentally, emotionally, racially, spiritually, some are tall and dumb, others short, bald and clever. Now let's figure out what will happen if we legislate equality and make the concept of equality a cornerstone and pillar of socio-economic and political systems, all right? You don't have to be a great economist or socialist to foresee that some people who are less equal would demand as much as those who are more equal by law. So what Yuri is saying is that you shouldn't legislate laws where everyone is treated fairly and equally in a country.
I know, it's hilarious.
That's so not what he's saying. That's so not what he's saying.
Do you think he gets it, or you think he's just being legitimately obtuse?
I think it's easy if he goes into this with this lens of saying, I'm looking for like the bad thing that I can criticize him on. He finds this section and then he rips it out with no context, and maybe he actually believes it.
Bad stuff.
I don't think this is intentional bad. I think it's just unintentional stupidity.
Yeah.
And the point, he also, does he have the first sentence or does he cut it off? Wait. Yeah, so he has it, because if you look at the first sentence, it says, so here's the context. So the paragraph before this, he talks about how in America, you're living in an open society, okay? He says, and an open society is the one you're living in now. You can work in it or you can choose not to work. You can have private property or you can have nothing at all. You can love it or you can leave it. Criticize it without fear of being declared an enemy of the people. It's a society based on free individual initiative and the free market system. So sounds good, right?
Great.
So far.
Sign me up.
And right. And then he says, all you have to do to screw up the status quo of a free nation is to borrow one false idea from the ideology of communism or totalitarian government.
Notice how it's a false idea. Like if you borrowed an idea that wasn't false, it would be okay, I would think.
Right. So then he goes into the thing. He talks about this idea of egalitarianism, of people being all born equal. And he says, are you now equal? He says, now let's figure out what will happen if we legislate equality and make the concept of equality a cornerstone and pillar of the socioeconomic political system. All right. You don't have to be a great economics or theorist or sociologist to foresee that some people who are less equal demand as much as those who are more equal by law. Then he goes on to say, now you've got it. There will be some who will get more for giving less and take advantage of those who are even less equal, say in the art of taking. And to avoid the squabble for equal redistribution, you'll have to introduce a third force, the state. Why? Because people were never equal, are not equal, and if God wanted us to be equal, he would probably have made us equal. So I guess he is religious. But his point was, which this guy's removing from context, is he's saying that they introduced this concept of total egalitarianism, which is now being rebranded by the left as equity. Okay, they want equality of outcome, they want equity. Is that the only way to have that implemented is to have some dominant force like the government basically force this equity on everyone, and that's where you get the totalitarian government.
I got the COVID. I got the COVID.
But here's that not only is that's completely true, but he's taken this paragraph out of context. Totally. He's making it sound like Yuri's some sort of,
eugenicist,
alt-right eugenicist Nazi or something.
He's saying, look, he's pointing to this weird idea that we have to make people equal.
Right.
Emotionally, racially, spiritually, some are tall and dumb. Demand as much one is treated fairly and equally in a country.
Okay, and here's why this is so stupid. He's conflated this with treating people fairly.
Right.
He's not talking about treating people fairly. The paragraph right before this is all about treating people fairly. He's saying you live in an open society where you as an individual can choose your level of engagement. Okay. Yep. That's being treated fairly in an open society. What he's rallying against is saying everyone has to have the same outcome, that the government has to force the same outcome on everyone. But this guy, because he was reading it with such a negative frame of mind, he just sees the word equality and his brain shuts off.
Confirmation bias.
I can just remove everything from its context and try to just say, look, he's against equality. He's a bad man.
Yeah. He's against fairness.
This is a guy that Treyarch thinks is okay to put in its trailers. This is a guy that, Nazis and people on the right, just general conservatives, think we should listen to. A guy.
Look at that. He just conflated conservatives and Nazis.
Yeah, Nazis and the conservatives, and the widespread Nazi problem in America. It's just around every corner. There's just Nazis everywhere.
It's so funny that he's trying to dispel the idea that there's a communist around every corner.
I know.
By saying there's a Nazi around every corner. There can't be a communist in your closet because there's a Nazi in there. There's not room for both of them.
Adam, there's only room in your closet for one boogeyman. Okay.
Oh,
we all know.
Okay.
It's not the commie. It's the Nazi.
I'm going to check my closet out. They might be making out in there for all I know. Those Nazis and those commies, I don't trust either one of them.
Well, that's funny because that's the truth, is that the commies, the Nazis, they need each other.
They do. They're like the yin and yang.
They are the yin and yang. They get the forces of the the extremes on both ends have to paint the other side, the middle, as the extremists in order to seize power in their countries.
Imagine if you could purge your extremists. You just because they would make it up. I think the right has done a lot of purging of their extremists. The left is giving them jobs in academia.
Well, that's the problem, is that because America has its history grounded in literal systemic racism and enslavement.
Yeah.
It's been able to purge the racist from politics. But since America doesn't have that deep history of communism, it's not seen as a valid threat, which is a problem.
Oh, it's going to seem that way soon enough.
Though, at least for now, and this is where I worry, because at least for now, most communists have to pretend they're not communists publicly if they want to be taken seriously, not on the internet, obviously, but they want to be taken seriously. And I worry.
Really? I don't know that, though.
It's in terms of mainstream politics, it's 100%.
One of the guys that dragged Lindsay Shepard in, he did his thesis on Marxism and communism.
No. I understand that. Open. I'm not in academia. No, you can be openly communist. I'm talking about in politics, mainstream politics.
What about Bernie?
He's not a communist. But
socialist.
He's a social democrat or whatever. That's not a socialist. Okay. Now, I think you could argue that Bernie's hiding his socialist power level, which is possible, right? But there's a reason he's not going to say he's a socialist. out and out.
Bernie's healthcare policy was to abolish private insurance.
I know, I don't like it, but let me finish. What I'm worried about is that the current direction of internet leftist politics, I can't tell if it's like a fad. I can't tell if it's just a niche that exists to because there's nowhere for the commies to go, or I can't tell if it's a trend.
Yeah,
And that this is going to be the way that it's going to become more and more mainstream. You know, when the internet communists get older, I don't know if they're going to grow out of it or if it's going to infiltrate the mainstream, and that's really what concerns me.
The internet communists. I think it's the internet. Everyone's virtue signaling to each other.
It could. That's what I hope. I hope it's just the internet, and this stuff isn't going to spread into mainstream politics. But I'm not convinced.
Hopefully, it's a
I'm
fad.
saying,
Because you know what happens
No,
to fads?
right.
It's like, oh, that was boring. Remember when we were communists? Remember when we were anti-theists? Remember when we were communists?
Right.
Come
I
on.
hope it is a fad. I hope it is a fad. But see, this is where I talked about. We talked about this a lot in last stream and in the Colin stream. Is that's part of the problem I have with Donald Trump, is that he serves as the avatar for the communists to get triggered from, because they can always point to and say, "Look, Donald Trump's a fascist and he's the president of America, Adam."
Bring it up with
Everything
James
you're saying
Lindsay.
is
He just
true.
endorsed Donald Trump, okay?
No, he didn't.
He did. He did. We'll
No, he
play the
didn't.
video.
that on physical differences that you may be born with, whether that is race, whether that is maybe having some mental problems.
I like that in the thing. Did Jerry even talk about race in that thing? I don't think he did.
No. He kept it racial
Excuse me.
because he definitely didn't want to drop the race.
Yeah, no,
card.
he didn't talk about race at all. And yet, he's gonna throw it in there.
Some Call of Duty fans are obsessed with race, I guess.
Yep. Well, this guy, he's got to paint everything as racist. 'cause
Not
that's the
me.
strategy. Yeah.
Neurological problems, having some physical disabilities, mental disabilities, you shouldn't be equal to everyone else because you're not equal in the eyes of Yuri. So very nice, thank